Goodwill frontier. These are the voyages of the Starship Adequate. Our ongoing mission to review every episode and movie of Star Trek in existence, to seek out new guests, and there are coming, and make them...
Are they? Are they really?
And make them very uncomfortable to boldly go where every other Star Trek-based YouTube channel has gone before. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Treks and Trekkers worldwide, and welcome to a recorded episode of Trekking Up North. I am one of your hosts, Captain Goodwill of the Starship Adequate, and joining me, as ever, is the delicious, the delectable, the absolutely beautiful Geesian from the planet Hawk. It's Science Officer Synoiz. Look at him, the delicious egg.
Hello, it's been a while since we did this.
It's been a long time since we've seen you, mug. How are
It's
you?
really weird.
You have been
us being
rebirthed.
like an egg, like
An egg.
Yeah, that's it.
You
But,
have been rebirthed.
I have been rebirthed. That was quite a wide canal, but I got through it. I refused. I refused to be born from a cesarean.
Oh,
I crawled out,
twirling a cane, whistling a tune, didn't even wipe his feet. He just he
That's why
sauntered.
Mother hates me. She's like, I'll never recover from this. I hope you realise that.
At least you can claim Pip. How are you, Science Officer?
I'm good. I'm good. I love that we did the whole thing of going, oh, I'm busy on Friday, so should we just not do it this week? And I was like, no, we kind of need to get back to doing it because, we have had. It's been so incredibly busy the last couple of weeks, and
Oh
for
my
some
God.
reason, everything is happening on a Friday. And then because of the way that everything's working at the moment, we were like going, okay, so we can't do live, but then when can we pre-record and edit in time for it to go out on Friday? And
Yeah,
so it's been a mess.
the logistics guys of getting this out. So obviously I started a new job. Science Officer Synoiz has been doing several million things. But rebirthing, getting into a cave in Easter and then coming back out as an egg. Has been rebirthed as the artist formerly known as Synoiz, who is now called Synoiz, and we had to look at the logistics, and I was like, right, we can. I need time between recording and then uploading and promoting for it going to air. But I work and I have about 2 hours a night, so we'll have to record on this date. Allows me the time the next day to do the editing and the uploading and the marketing so that it's good to go on the Friday. So there's been a lot of logistics to fathom as I'm learning a new job as well. So I don't know if anyone's noticed this. Have you ever started a new job and been so engrossed in learning that you get home and you go to bed and you dream about the job and doing the job? And like to the point where this is a true story. 1:30 this morning, I got up, I walked downstairs, went into my work jacket, got out my little post-it note and wrote a note of something that I needed to do at work today because my mind was like, you must fulfill the prophecy. And I just had to go down and write it down so I didn't forget it. So I
think it's good, though, that you're passionate about it. Like, you know, as in you're wanting to do well at it and you're actually going, oh, I need to do this. Because I found when I had massive anxiety problems, I found that having a notepad by my bed just so I could kind of go, hey, I won't be able to get back to sleep until I put that thought onto paper somewhere, or like, you know, put it on the list to be dealt with, because knowing that it was on the list to be dealt with tomorrow allowed me to get to sleep in that moment, kind of thing. It's different techniques we all have to get through.
Yeah, and I actually have a notepad at the side of the bed, but this was like, I thought, well, I'll write it down, but I probably wouldn't read it in the morning. So I have a notepad in like the breast pocket of my jacket. So I was like, I will do that, put it in there. And then when I go to get like a key or something like that, it's there and I'll know. And then I completely forgot about it, and then I saw it in the jacket, and I was like, "Oh, Past Me is brilliant," and I just pat myself on the back for being like a proper adult. But no, we are here. We are finally going to review our first episode of the Darby Wheel of Shame. I believe this year that we've had so far. I think, yeah, I do believe so.
We've done fairly well with either having special episodes to review or only spinning good episodes. But this is the
Yes.
thing, though. This is your one of your choices for the Dabber Wheel of Shame.
Mm-mm.
You picked this one.
Did
I did not.
I?
Yes, and that's the thing. And I was watching it, being like,
No.
"This isn't a bad episode.
I
I
don't
don't
think it
remember this."
was. I don't think this was a
Yeah,
bad episode. Did I pick
I don't.
this?
We'll have to dig
We
it out.
we,
We'll
we
have
might
to
have to
work out
consult the
who picked what.
archives. Yeah, we
Yeah,
might have
because
to
I
consult the
do
archives.
not. The
Well, if I
archives being the notes thing on my phone.
yeah,
That's it.
but at least we get to release the files. I I rewatched this tonight, the Elysian Kingdom, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I
Yeah.
thoroughly enjoyed it, and it just it lent to the notion that the first season of Strange New Worlds was an extremely strong season for a brand new series, and I really thought like there was emotion towards the end of the episode. There was comedy. There was there was proper Star Trekness
Yeah.
within the episode. When it came to the nebula and stuff like that, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I hadn't seen it since it aired in 2022. So that's 4 years ago that it aired. And I really thoroughly enjoyed it. And it made me realize just how awesome of a character Umbenga actually is. But even the supporting cast, like this was episode 8 in season 1. And I think what Star Trek Strange New Worlds did so well was it had an ensemble cast that it fleshed out really quickly, but you also had genuine interest for, and all had their own personalities and had their all of their traits. And this episode sort of like flexed them out in its own unique way in the medium of fairy tales.
Well, it's the fact of this is an episode that it's strange to get an episode like this in a season one of something, because this is usually when we go, hey, we've seen these actors for a while, let's see them flex their muscles and do something different, so that they're, like we had Far Beyond the Stars in DS9, which is linked to this one
It
bizarrely, that I
is,
didn't
yes.
realize until today, because I totally missed that detail. But the idea of like where they go, hey, we'll have the same characters, but we'll have them playing different parts to demonstrate, and everyone has totally different like characters in this. Maybe not Spock, but like everyone's character that they change into in this episode is wildly different from like what they do on the show. And it's quite fun. Like it's quite fun seeing Pike be like a coward, seeing Pike be an absolute dickhead when we're so used to him being sort of like big strong daddy. It's
Anson mount me. But it is true Star Trek science, though, where the Enterprise is the studying a nebula, and it's a nice quiet time aboard the ship. And Pike also, Pike not laments. What's the right term?
he's talking about how wonderful it is that there's no sort of like problems. They're not having any battles, they're not having any action, they're just literally going around and exploring space, and he's enjoying it. And
It's
obviously
just, yeah.
Spock kind of cuts in and goes, "Isn't that bad luck in like human culture to kind of go, oh, I hope that this never goes wrong?"
It's the sassiness, though, when they try and leave the nebula and they can't, like, warp and impulse have gone. And Spock is just like, you may have jinxed it. And it's just like, you sassy bitch. But it is true Star Trek science where they can't escape. They don't know why. Ortegas gets knocked out because it was weird that she just stood up at the con for some strange reason, whether or not it's like a health and safety thing where you must stand up every so often for your posture or whatever. But as she engages the impulse engines, the ship jerks, she hits the con, and then she gets knocked out, so they call Umbenga to the bridge, and by the time he gets to the bridge, things have changed. But before we get to that, we do see the scenes with his daughter, because up until
Yeah.
this point in this
The
season,
key thing to mention about this episode is this is very much an Umbenga episode. This is the
yes,
first Umbenga episode that we get in Strange New Worlds. Obviously, in season two, we get the Incredible War episode, like
yeah,
which is an incredible episode of Trek. Whereas this is, I think this was the point where I started liking Umbenga because I struggled in the first. I don't know. I think I started liking him before this. I struggled with his voice. Like, no shade to the actor, but his kind of husky voice and whatnot. Like, I didn't like it to start with for the first like two or so episodes. And then by this point, I was like, no, I love him. Like, he's amazing, kind of thing. And
I
it was getting used to it. Like we had where I was worried in Starfleet Academy about Aki's voice. I was
yeah.
just like, oh, that going to be difficult for me, like Holly Hunter's voice. But yeah.
I must admit, like, when I first saw this episode in 2022, when I first saw this episode in 2022, I did struggle to understand certain things that Umbenga was saying.
Mm.
And to be honest, I put it down to the audio mixing
Mm.
within the show, because when I rewatched it today with sound bar and subwoofer and stuff like that, he was a lot clearer to understand. And I think it's
Mm.
purely down to the way the most modern shows are audio mixed, because they're more or less set up for home cinema systems, they're more or less set up for sound bars.
Well, it
And it
must be really difficult to do that because I was at my friend Ian's like a couple of weeks ago and we were watching a film and it genuinely had the worst sound mixing I've
yeah,
ever heard. And it was like a proper sort of fancy sort of £40 4K kind of like Blu-ray or whatnot.
yeah,
And it was just like, yeah, we just had to keep turning it up and down all the time because it
it's
was like, oh,
crazy.
whenever there was like an action scene, it got way too loud and we had to turn it
Yeah,
down, and then it would be impossible to hear the talking. And you're like, who did this? And we're not sure if it's like, oh, it's been mastered for sound bars or whatever, but it's like, do we need to start going like, hey, what version of the sound do you want to listen to when you do this? Because we went through and there weren't any other tracks, but apparently it's a known thing.
it it it
But you would have thought
is.
they'd fixed it for the 4K release, you know?
It is. I mean, look at when myself and Mike went down for the Section 31 premiere, and we're in a proper. No, but we're in a proper
The
movie
sound wasn't the
theatre.
problem with that. That was
Everything was a problem, but we're in a proper movie theatre with a proper, really expensive sound setup, and you can't hear a word that's going on in the action, to the point where the audience is sat
yeah.
there going, we don't know who is talking, what is being said, because there is so much noise. It's just essentially becoming static. Everything is becoming garbled. And, you know, that was one of the criticisms I had with the first season of Strange New Worlds, was the audio mixing, because you would
Mm.
get quiet scenes with Umbenga, and then immediately you would get action scenes and music scenes where they would just be ridiculously loud. So you're constantly having to fluctuate the audio to
Mm.
get a proper experience. But I don't know if they've gone back and redone it. I really don't know. But it was just vastly different today, where I could sit, not adjust the audio, and I could understand everything that he was saying, as well as the action and everything like that. I
Has your
really don't
has your
know.
setup changed?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like when I saw
Well,
it in
okay, yeah.
2022, it was just with my TV. So it's my TV and my TV speakers, and I really
Mm.
struggled to understand him. And then when I've listened, like when I've watched it today with my TV downstairs with its sound system and subwoofer and everything like that, he was a lot easier to understand. So I'm wondering
Yeah.
if, like, when they're mastering it for like a certain level of audio system, like a certain, minimum requirement, where it's like, hey, most people have sound bars, so our default now will just be sound bars going forward. I really don't know. I'm not an expert when
That's
it comes
really
to
interesting.
audio. Yeah, but the gist of it is, it is an Umbenga
Well,
episode, but it
it's an
focuses.
Umbenga episode, but it's also technically a holodeck episode. Because the issue that we had is with Strange New Worlds, it was before Next Generation, before Next Generation when holodecks became standard. And so it was like, how do we do a silly holodeck episode when we don't have access to a holodeck? And in season two they have it, no, season three they have it where they test out a holodeck, and whatnot, and it kind of does it. But every series of Trek needs a holodeck episode, basically. So I like that they work this interesting way of having one. But yeah, but Umbenga, his plot that's been developing over the season is that he's secretly stored his very very sick daughter, who is going to die from an illness and that is currently uncurable, an illness that she has. He stored her in the transporter buffer in sickbay. And what he does is at night he basically brings her out, he spends a couple of hours with her, and then he sort of, tries different medications on her and stuff and sees what sticks. But it's clear that she's not getting any better. So the start of the episode is him reading a fairy tale that she likes to her, and then putting her back in the buffer, and then sort of going to work on the cure. And you can see that he's exhausted. You can see that it's like, he's getting stressed. Like he's trying things and it's not working. It's, yeah, it kind of gets across like how he's feeling, I think.
And I think the exhaustion is well and truly translated onto the screen. He's doing the scientific experiment. It blows up in his face. They contain it, and then obviously that happens with Ortega. So he's when they call him to the bridge, he's in his quarters and he's visually exhausted in his quarters. He's leaning against the bulkhead, and they get him. He gets into the turbo lift and goes up, and you can see like the way that they've angled it. It just denotes tiredness. It
Yeah.
denotes exhaustion.
Well, this is the thing, because what we do is we have Una come into sick bay, and Una's the only member of the crew, I believe. I don't remember the series too well.
She's the only member that
She's the only one who,
knows.
yeah, about the daughter,
Yeah,
because she finds out about it, and she doesn't authorize it, but she kind of goes, "Okay, that's a secret we will keep."
yeah. So the previous episode, they find this anomaly within the system. Long story short, and he more or less has to admit to her that it's his daughter, because she goes, "Hey, we've got this biological pattern in the buffer. Who is it?" And although she doesn't report it, she doesn't turn a blind eye. She sort of allows it to go on, because
Yeah,
obviously it's Umbenga's daughter, and he is actively working on the cure. And she knows if she is brought out of the buffer, she will pass at a quicker rate, because the whole point of keeping her in the buffer is that it prolongs her life in a twisted sort of way. It
I
doesn't
mean
allow the
that.
disease to spread. Keeps her in stasis.
Well, that's the thing, because it's Umbenga talks about like, oh, first it was years, then it was months, and now it's days. So it kind
Yeah.
of suggests that it might be days that she has to live. So the idea of having her out the buffer for any amount of time is actually dangerous at this point. And it's kind of, and it's cool because it characterizes Una really well, because Una basically comes in and says, "Hi, this thing that you were meant to be doing hasn't been done, and yet, you're doing working on this cure for your daughter." And she's like, "I appreciate that, but I need you to do your job," kind of
You need
thing.
to remember your duties. Yeah.
Yeah, and I like that. I like that Una's like that, where she's just going, "Hey, that's cool," because that's the responsibility that you have in Starfleet. You kind of go like, "Yep, that's cool. We will respect all of your needs and stuff, but you still need to actually do your job." But she orders him to go and get some sleep. But by the time that he goes to go and get some sleep is when all of the action happens.
Yeah, and it all kicks off, and when he gets to the bridge has been completely redressed, and he thinks it's an absolute wind up. He thinks it's, the crew's playing a practical joke on him, and then it slowly becomes apparent that this is no joke. Something has happened. Everything is vastly different, and the crew believes that he is the king, and everyone's roles have changed, everyone's names have changed, and they believe he's king. And I love Pike's character in this episode. He's such a God. He's not a bitch, but he is just such a sycophantic, two-faced
He's a
twat.
sniveling twat, basically. He
Yeah,
is that, he's basically sort of a Tory MP, he's that kind of, you know, uh fair weather friend, sort of, jumping sides all the time and terrified of, any kind of conflict. And it's yeah, it's fun to see Anson Mount playing this character. I like it.
But I agree with you. Like, to see this type of episode so early on in a series like this, it really shows how good the actors are and how good the writers are, that they can pull it off, and they can pull it off so well, and that the range that the actors have got, especially Mount and
No, I would say I wouldn't even. Maybe Spock doesn't get to
Spock is a
shine
bit
as much as he
limited,
wants,
yeah.
because he goes from being Spock to being a very sort of kind of evil but also withdrawn kind of wizard. But everyone else gets to proper just enjoy themselves. Everyone else Ortegas gets a lot of screen time. She gets a fight scene.
Yeah.
Like Una gets to be a sort of not like a kind of heroine, but like
She's like a
like
Robin
different.
Hood. Yeah.
Yeah, and whatnot. You get like Uhura gets to absolutely live
Oh,
it up.
she's
Like
brilliant in this. Yeah.
yeah, she's the villain of it and whatnot, and like it's really fun. And I would say that I think this episode happened because they had a really good idea for an episode, and they didn't know they were going to get a second season.
Yeah.
That's how this feels. Because this feels like a season three kind of episode. This feels like in normal Trek, like in Golden Age Trek, this would be in season three where we've established all the characters, we've done all of this. Because the main issue about this episode and my complaint with it is that spoilers if you haven't seen it, but if you haven't seen it, watch it.
4 years ago.
Is that basically, yeah, Umbenga's daughter leaves the show.
Yeah.
She kind of gets cured in a way, and she has to kind of leave. And that should have happened later. Like Umbenga's daughter should have been a plot point for a lot longer in the show rather than just 8 episodes.
Well, I
Like
wanted
we
to.
should have had her in season three where the evil entity takes over the computer and she's put into threat or something happens with her then. Like all these things that we could have done with this plot point of he has a sick daughter, he's trying to cure her. How many situations could he be in when an offer to cure her was raised and he had to make a choice or something like that? Instead, it feels like we kind of spent all of Mbenga's sort of like background points or whatever, like or his like plot threads in season one, and it just felt. And if that's it, it felt weird. It was like, why doesn't Mbenga? Spoilers for season one. Why doesn't Mbenga die instead of Hemel?
Yeah.
If we were going to use up all of his like plot points seemingly in season one. Luckily, we get a lot more stuff from Mbenga later on.
Well,
But
I wanted to ask you about the about Umbenga's daughter, and in terms of her leaving the show in episode 8. Do you feel that the lack of appearance of his daughter really takes away from the emotional departure in this episode? So, like you said, if she was in for an entire season, so if this was late season 2, if this was in season 3, do you think that the emotional scene that we see would have been a better payoff for the audience, because they would have built that bond with the daughter, they would have seen his struggles trying to cure her, and then eventually she would depart, a few years into the show, and it would have been a bigger emotional departure? Because it is an emotional scene. I mean, I know we're zigzagging all over, but hey, whatever. And it is an emotional scene, and at the time I remember I got emotional, but with everything going on in my life, it was like, oh my god. But you look at it now, you look at it retroactively, and you go, she should have been in for longer. There should have been something where it was like the evil AI, because the one criticism we had about the computer, the presence in the computer in season 3 was it was severely underused. Like they
didn't do anything.
teased,
They literally they have one episode where it goes into the computer, and then 2 episodes later, oh, it comes out the computer, and they fight it, and you're like,
and they could
okay.
have there could have been a jeopardy with Umbenga's daughter. Then we could have seen what lengths would a father go to save his daughter. Would he put everyone else at risk for his daughter? Blah blah blah.
Yeah. Would he, in order to protect his daughter, would he sell the crew out in order to like and give the thing something it needed or
Yeah.
whatever in exchange for like this is what I feel like. I think I don't think I put this in the Dabo wheel of shame, but it's the fact of like the fact that it squanders a really really good character and plot potentially, you
Hmm.
know, so early. I mean, obviously it goes back to what we say every single time we do this, where it's the fact of if there was 25 episodes in a season and this was episode 20, it wouldn't be a problem. The fact that
Yeah.
this is episode 8 of 10 and we see Umbenga's daughter like 3 times.
Yeah.
Like it
If
literally
that.
has it has an episode where he's just kind of like you know doing something suspicious in like Medbay, and then it has an episode where he's actually with his daughter and we find out, and then it has the episode about them finding out about the daughter, and then it has this one, and then she's gone, and it's like yeah, it just feels like so much more could have been done with that, and that's not a complaint. It's a compliment to how wonderful this plot line is, but how much better it could have been.
I.
Because I don't think
It's.
we see enough. I don't think we see enough trauma with Umbenga. We get the
Yeah.
one scene in this where he's basically stressing out trying to find a cure for her, and it blows up in his face, and he has to kind of get ordered to go and rest. But there could have been so much more. It could have been over the course of several episodes, and it isn't.
It feels like there's two factions within the writing and producing of these shows, where you've got the traditionalist writers of the 90s and the early 2000s, where they have stuff like this because they were the writers of shows that had 20, 22,
Mm.
25 episodes, so they will put stuff in that. And then they are trying to fight with like the modern wranglings of streaming, where it's like, hey, you need to essentially distill 20 episodes into 10 episodes. And the problem is you could have fantastic stories, you can have great writing, but the emotional payoff that you are hoping the audience to get from these 8 episodes into a brand new series are not there. And we've seen it with quite a lot of Star Trek since 2017. We've seen it with the Section 31 movie, where we had the Delton. We had this fantastic Delton
Yeah,
character. She was really interesting. We really wanted to know
the
more,
best character in the
and she
movie.
was brilliant. And
5 minutes?
not even that, and she's dead. And but then what you see represented on screen, and we saw this in Discovery as well, where it's like this person is dead, so then we will dedicate a really abnormal amount of time for grieving and mourning and being upset and angry about this, and then we'll move on. But it's like, yeah, but to the audience, we knew them for like 5 minutes. To
Yeah.
the audience, we knew them for an episode. You can't expect the audience to have the same emotional payoff for a character that's been in for maybe 1 or 2 episodes, or for the movie 5 minutes, than a character that was in for an entire season. Look at Tasha Yar in season 1 of Next Generation.
Yeah.
She was in for one season. She didn't even die in the last episode. She died I think 1 or 2 episodes
Yeah.
before the season finale. But her death was profound. That to this day, it's like, oh god, it's Tasha Yar. Like, she shouldn't have gone. She was a brilliant character, and
It's
it's like,
because she's present. Like she's got
yeah.
a lot of good episodes in season one, but it's more the idea of she's constantly there. She becomes part of the scenery, and
Yes.
it's like that comfort thing where you're just like, oh, this is how the room is laid out, and if something goes missing from it, it bothers you. Like
Yeah.
the fact that Umbenga's daughter doesn't appear that much, like out of sight, out of mind. We're like going, oh yeah, I forgot he had a daughter in a transporter buffer, and you're like, well, how are you going to be emotionally invested? I mean, the emotional investment that we have in this episode, because I find it very beautiful, like and
Yes.
a bit and sad. But at the same time, that's me reading between the lines. I'm having to read between the lines and empathize with how Mbenga must be feeling in his scenes and stuff, rather than actually feeling that because we've seen it. That's
Yeah. Yeah.
that's how I
Exactly.
feel, I think.
Exactly. And you know, it just goes back to what we have been saying for a number of weeks about this. How shows like Star Trek. No, but in all seriousness, shows like Star Trek, if you want them, we don't know after 2027. We don't know what's going on with Star Trek. We don't know if there's going to be any announcements in the next few months, if there's going to be announcements at STLV, at Star Trek Day. April the 5th, this month, came and we had nothing. Absolute zilch, nada.
Not even cadets. No, what's it called?
Scouts.
Scouts. Not even scouts.
No, I mean, like, we had no announcements or anything like that, no news, no nothing. And that is, First Contact Day for a lot of people is the actual Star Trek Day. Like, you've got May the 4th, we've got April the 5th, First Contact Day. And then Paramount sort of, out of nowhere a few years ago, just went, nope, September 8th is Star Trek Day, because that's when the that's when the original series aired and stuff. And it's like, well, we kind of had this day. And then everyone's leading to...
being out of touch? That sounds unlikely.
Yes. And then everyone's leading to, okay, it's the 60th year. We are 4 months into this year, and it's not been good for Star Trek. It really has not been good. Starfleet Academy has been cancelled after season 2. A lot of hoo-ha about that. We have no Star Trek in production at the moment. The sets have been auctioned off. The Strange New World sets have been put into storage because we don't know what's happening with year 1. And just everything is just up in the air. No one knows what's going on. And you're going into the 60th year of one of the biggest franchises on the planet with no plan, no direction, and no clue about what's coming next. And if you are going to go into movies after this, fine. More Trek, the better. If you're going to do TV series, though, after this, if you're continuing to do TV series after the cancellation of Starfleet Academy, I would say you need to give Star Trek a breather for a few years. Give it a breather. Come back. And if you're going to do a series again, you need more than 10 episodes, because what we are learning, not just with Star Trek, with a whole host of different shows, is that there is a demand, there is an appetite for more than 10 episodes of a show. Like, you can have the big epic series where they have, like a limited number of episodes per season. That's fine. But when it comes to shows like this, they thrive on lower budgets and higher episode counts. You don't need to spend $100 million on 10 episodes where you could take that same amount of money and maybe spend 50 million, 70 million on 20 episodes. You can cut the costs. You can, Star Trek did it for 40 years before it was shelved.
Like, what we care about is we care about the story, we care about the journey. It's the same as like video games and stuff, where all these big studios are going, everyone wants multiplayer games. It's like, no, people don't. Like, stop trying to do this. Like all of the big games that we've had being successful this year have all been single player. And the industry kind of just goes, no, people don't want that. Like indie games where it's like, hey, this will run on any PC. Like, this is actually, like a bit craptastic, but the gameplay is amazing. Just give me good Star Trek. Like, I don't know where the money went on Starfleet Academy. I loved a lot of the episodes. I loved the plot, and I loved like a lot of the development, but that's not what cost any of the money. Like, that could have been done on a much, much lower budget, especially with the pittance that they were paying the poor actors.
I mean, the lead actor, $40,000 a year he was getting, and I know that doesn't include appearances, media, PR, conventions, and stuff like that. But 40,000, hey, you have been cast in a new Star Trek series. You are essentially
you're in every episode.
Yeah, aside from Holly Hunter, you are the star. You are the star of this. Here is 40 grand, and like, yes, you should be grateful, but also 40 grand.
Like, where did the money go? I don't get it. Like,
the
CG wasn't particularly brilliant, but CG tends to be fairly cheap, I think, now.
But I think we've seen, especially in the last year,
we've gone off it, everyone. We are fully
we are on a tangent, but we'll get back to the Elysian Kingdom, because I do have a point to this. But what we have seen this year, if you look at episodes like the Elysian Kingdom, where they are passionately crafted. The sets are meticulously built and designed. Lighting is perfect. Costumes are fantastic in
That
this
I
episode.
made a note about just how this must have been a costume designer's dream, because
but then
everything looks so wonderful and luxurious. Like Uhura, like as what's she, the queen?
the queen, I can't remember her
I've
name.
forgotten the name. I've written it down somewhere. Uhura, Queen Nev.
Queen, but you look at the episodes where
she looks incredible.
You've got episodes like this where everything is so meticulously created and detailed, and the direction is beautiful, the framing is beautiful, the lighting, the sound is brilliant, the special effects are fantastic, and then you fast forward it 4 years later, and for those that have watched our reviews on Starfleet Academy, the amount of not tiny little mishaps, but very clear, blatant, obvious technical faux pas and editing flaws, where it's like this is stuff that a multi-million-dollar franchise and multi-billion-dollar studio should not be putting out without the most basic of checks, and stuff that could very easily be fixed within 5 minutes in post, where they're just knocking it out the door because they don't care. And we're seeing it with these studios. I mean, you need to look at Disney, where they've let go of most of the visual creators at Marvel and left with a skeleton crew. And then people have turned around and went, well, the quality of those shows and those films are going to absolutely dive because you've let go of the people that are passionate, that built up that vision, that world that they had built. You've let them all go and you've essentially contracted it out. And, you know, I compare Elysian Kingdom to, you know, like one of the episodes of Starfleet Academy, and I'm like, how did it go from such absolute brilliance 4 years ago to this? Yet the money and the budget is higher.
Yeah.
What happened?
This is the interesting thing about this episode. Are there any real special effects in this episode? Like, there's the special effects at the end where the daughter gets transported or whatever, you know, and we have the thing. But
This is
aside from
exterior
that,
CG and that's it.
yeah, it's literally just like the stars and showing the nebula.
But it goes to show you don't need all that fancy CGI.
This is a great episode, and it doesn't have any epic space battles or anything. It doesn't have explosions. It doesn't have any of that. It has literally the bridge shakes because something's happened in engineering and stuff. And there's something wonderful about that. Like, this was a really fun episode. I really enjoyed it.
You know, some people might consider it a bottle episode, but it
very much is. But it also
very much is
part of the main plot. But yeah,
but it just shows what you can do with fantastic practical effects, good direction,
and
good actors. And I must say, Christine Chong and her own dog.
I did not realize it was her own dog.
We met it in Blackpool. What are you on about? We did. We did. Yes.
That's the same dog.
That's the same dog.
That is so weird.
It's great. I love the fact, and this is the thing. Like, this is the thing. My partner Charlotte.
Why did I think that?
My partner Charlotte went. Go on.
Yeah. No, I'm just like, did it do its hair differently? And I'm like, it's a dog.
It had a different parting. But when we were watching, my partner Charlotte just went, "Oh my god, they've given the dog a dress." And then I looked at it, I was like, they've made a matching dress for the dog for Christine Chong, and it was so intricately detailed and beautiful. And it's like, this is for a dog that has the screen time of about 4 seconds, and they just went all out and did that. And I'm like, how do you get from that to what we saw in Starfleet Academy? It's absolutely mind-blowing.
Keep the costume for the dog. So the
oh
dog
my god! I really hope.
At home now.
I really hope.
We need to ask her this.
I'm pretty sure the dog
get the costume.
I'm pretty sure the dog's a male as well.
Oh my god! This is even better.
It's very much like a role reversal of Enterprise, where Porthos was actually a female. But she portrayed a male dog, and it's like, no one show the backside in case you see ham. But
things I didn't expect to be talking about today.
For those that don't know,
is nuts.
For those that don't know, before we go live on an episode or before we record an episode, we do a thing called the Purge, where we get out every
We
really
did really well to be straight faced when this episode started.
we get out every like impure thought, every like risque joke. We just purge it in case one of us, because we both like trains, so just in case we just accidentally blurt
It's
it out.
even better when we've got a guest on, where we have like David just being like, "What is going on?" and we're just saying,
We have got.
shit.
All I will say, folks, is we have got an extremely special guest coming on very soon, and I'm really happy that he is on the same wavelength as us, because I think if it was anybody, put it this way, when he was asked about coming on Trekkin,
We are
he
going to
went,
be the tame ones.
yeah, when he was asked about coming on Trekkin, he literally went, and I quote, "I am a podcast slut." So that's the mind that we're working on. So I'm fairly relieved on that. But yeah, I mean, like I said, you look at this episode and it is absolutely brilliant, and the change in production quality in the last 4 years is really telling. But I just, yeah, I think the emotional payoff would have been better if it was a later episode in a later season. But I really do love it though. I just think it's absolutely fantastic. And Uhura, we need to talk about Uhura as Queen Nev, because she really chews that fucking scenery out, that engineering. And her costume and her nails are absolutely amazing, and she's terrifying in this as well. She really is. She thrives.
I don't know if she's terrifying.
For me, she's terrifying.
A wonderful Disney villain, I think. You know.
Do you think?
Really...
Ooh, Disney villain. I never
I'd
thought
say
that.
so. She's got that. Well, she's got that kind of like, you know when they did the sort of live action things, like what was it called, Enchanted. She's basically like that. That kind of evilness.
Maleficent.
That's it.
Yeah.
And I really like it. But the other important thing about this episode is that we get a lot of Hema. And Hema is a character that is only in season 1. They die at the end of season 1, and they're massively, woefully underused. Like, we complain about Pelia being underused, but Hema basically, he kind of gets used as like a Swiss Army knife in season 1. Like, we do get, well, in terms of they're like, oh, he's just doing that whole thing of getting people out of situations and sort of doing his job and being like really useful, but there's not too much characterization on him. We get wonderful scenes between him and Uhura building up a rapport and whatnot, but he just feels like we never got enough of Hema. And it made me sad because he's so good in this episode. Because basically, both him and Mbenga are the only ones that actually know who they are. They haven't had their mind sort of changed by whatever's going on. They haven't become the characters. So Hema's basically just finds himself dressed up as a wizard, and everyone else around him acting crazily, and he basically admits when they find him that the reason for this is that he has telepathic powers, and he felt a consciousness trying to sort of impose on him, and he basically shut it out, so he didn't get his mind ring. But it's just quite fun because he's basically just leaning into it all. Like, whereas Mbenga's basically going, "Hey, we need to fix this. We need to sort of get out of this. We need to solve the problem." And Hema's kind of like going, "It's quite fun being a wizard." It's quite, like he's, when he's trying to get them out of a jail cell, he literally uses like I don't know what it is. It's like
a welding torch.
Yeah, it's basically like a blowtorch to get them out. And he's just like, oh, what's the line where he's like, oh, what would a human wizard say? And he's like, oh, abracadabra. And he's like, oh, okay. Abracadabra. And then later on, when they get accosted by Queen Nev and all of her guards and whatnot, he has a wonderful scene where he's trying to talk like a wizard. And he's like, I will cast you into the chaos void with my magical powers, and then
the
she's
powers
just like,
of power that I have power.
and it's like, and it's so crap. And the Queen's just like, okay, you weirdo, and then he just basically pulls out a communicator, and then just goes like, boop,
abracadabra.
No. And teleports them all.
I love that. I love the fact that he just used science.
Yeah, but it's just this idea of he's just loving this crazy situation, and you just go, why couldn't we have had more of Hemmer? Like it's the fact of he's such a deep character, but like I think it's that important thing when you get people in shows because we have Spock, who's a very deep character, but he's also a very sort of tragic character in terms of he doesn't understand things and he's constantly at odds with himself and whatnot throughout Strange New Worlds. Like Hemmer represented a character, a bit like Pellier, I suppose, where they fully know themselves. They fully know themselves and they don't mind having a bit of a laugh. And it's kind of like a reliable Pellier.
Ooh, yeah, I really loved it. I really loved. My mind has just gone blank. My mind has just gone blank. I have been awake for a long time. But
we loved Hemmer in this episode.
I loved Hemmer in every episode of Strange New Worlds that he was in, and I was glad that he came back briefly in season 2, although it wasn't actually the real Hemmer. But he was just, again, it just goes back to, it's a fantastic character, but due to the length of these seasons, we don't get to see a lot of him. And
we should have got a full Tasha Yar's worth of Hemmer. And same with Yar, it wouldn't have been enough, but it would have been better than just 9-10 episodes.
But what I loved was like they made him an Enar, which is like a variant of Andorians who they share the same planet. Essentially, for those that don't know, it's like
when humans. Did we ever see them?
Star Trek Enterprise season 4.
Is it just Enterprise? Yeah.
Star Trek Enterprise season 4. Yeah, because they were a myth.
I remember that. Yeah.
They were believed to be either extinct or a myth, and it basically parallels humans and Neanderthals, where the Neanderthals died out and humans became dominant. It was the same thing on Andoria. However, the Enar regressed underground, whereas the Andorians thrived on the surface, but then obviously moved underground as well. But because they moved underground and it was dark, they eventually lost their sight. They became a blind race and relied on extrasensory perception via their antennae. And that's why where you see Hemmer, he's a blind engineer, but he can do things better because of his heightened senses. And, with the first episode where they're in the captain's quarters and they're cutting and Spock just throws him a carrot and he's just like, boop, there you go. And he just catches it because he's got heightened senses. And
it's a bit like Geordie from Next Gen, where you're just going, I know that you have a way around this, but how are you still doing that? Like with Geordie, where it's like, how are you seeing this control panel? But
you have to give it to Starfleet, where they're like, hey, we're gonna make you the chief engineer of our flagship and you can't see anything. That is the sheer faith they have in his skills and abilities that they are able to do that. But I would have loved to have seen more exploration of Hemmer and his background and the Enar the Enar subrace of the Andorians, because, like I said, we get a little bit of it in season 4 of Enterprise. But again, it's like they tease it and then it doesn't really go anywhere with it. And it just would have been really interesting.
It's a tough one, though, because the thing is with Strange New Worlds is that we love the cast so much. Like, I absolutely adore every character in Strange New Worlds. And it's annoying that it's like, I can't believe it was season 3 until we got an Ortegas episode. But what a fucking episode it was. But it's this idea of going, it would have been nice to keep him around. It would have been nice to have more of Hemmer and more of this other stuff. And then avoid characters like Ortegas' brother, who doesn't really do or contribute anything, it's
sort of like you're bringing in characters at the late stage of a show where it's like you got rid of good characters to bring in these other characters at the late stage and they don't really contribute. It's like you're just making up the numbers, you're ticking a box to make up the numbers and they don't really contribute anything, like Ortegas' brother, where he's there to film a documentary but you barely see him making the documentary. And it's like there could have been friction, there could have been tension, it could have like been done for entering a classified section of the ship or so, and you just don't get anything. And you then get the likes of Hemmer, where there could have been something, you know, something might have happened where he needed to go back to Andoria, or, you know, he had the ability to regain his sight and, you know, made the decision that I preferred to live how I lived, because, you know,
I think Hemmer's arc is good, but it's just the fact that it happens in 10 episodes rather than
would have been longer,
you know? Like, because this is the idea. It's the fact of going, we've got a cast as big as Next Gen, as big as like DS9 and whatnot, but then with very, very little, far less time to actually develop them. So it means that we just get all these characters where we're like, who is that? When do they get an episode? When do we find out who they are? And luckily, Strangely Worlds has done a great job of actually doing that over 3 seasons.
And that's a testament to the writing.
That's why Strangely Worlds is brilliant.
It's a testament to the writing, where it's like you watch 1 or 2 episodes and you're like, I care about most of this crew and I actually enjoy them. Like, they feel like a functional unit. Because I think what Strangely Worlds did best was, for the most part, this was an already established crew in this point in the Star Trek timeline. Like, they had served with each other for months and years. It was only Uhura that was the new kid on the block. So Uhura was coming in, so she was acting as like the audience proxy for the crew. But what you saw was an already gelled unit working as one. And like, you know, the quips that Ortegas has with Pike, you know, even in this, where she's like, "Are you gonna say the thing? You gotta say the thing," and he's like, "Hit it," and he's like, I said hit it," and stuff like that. But then she does it with Spock, and then, you know, there's the rifts between Ortegas and Uhura, or Una and Uhura.
It feels like a crew that are used to working together. And that's what you want from Star Trek. Like, it's Star Trek, for me, it feels like a family. When I put DS9 on, when I put Trek on, even when I put Voyager on, as long as Neelix isn't there, I feel like, you know, I feel like going, this is my family. This is a comfort thing. This is something that I'd like to be part of. And Stranger Worlds captures that amazingly.
There was a little side tangent. I was playing Star Trek Online at the weekend, and I was replaying a Delta Quadrant mission, and one of the objectives was help Neelix, and I was like,
I have a different way of doing that.
Yeah, I was like, do I have to? He'll be fine.
Will that complete the mission?
He'll be fine. Do I really have to? And then, like, there was a dialogue option. It's like, goodbye, my friend, and I'm like, do I have to say that? Could I just be like, you know, and just back out of the room or something like that? But
I was talking with someone, because someone brought up the Tuvix argument the other day of, like, you know, like, oh, what would have been the thing? And I'm like, the ideal solution would have been that they separate Tuvix, they make it back into that, and then they shoot Neelix in the head. Like, that's how the episode should have ended, you know? It's like, hey, we've fully fixed this problem right here.
No, what they should have done is separated them and then called Operation U-Tree, and then the authorities come into sickbay, question him about his choices, and then he's led away to the brig.
They check what's on his pad in his room. check Neelix's pad. He's in the files.
We've noticed your LCAR's search history. Incognito mode doesn't work. IT sees everything. Oh,
That's
God.
all I'm saying.
She was two.
Go and watch our review of
Go and watch our review of Elysium and find out why I left for America for over a month.
We just gave up doing this show after reviewing that.
It's so funny.
Destroyer of souls.
The gap in our timeline where it's just like, there was 4 weeks of not even a short. Like, that was the
That's how bad Elysium is.
I remember sending you a message after. I remember sending you a voice message like after the show, and I was like, I am genuinely depressed right now. Like I was emotionally wrecked, and I was like. And then I just flew to America for a month to build houses. I was like, I need to literally do a Shawshank. I need to just go to a beach and sand a boat. All right? Because I have just crawled through 5 miles of Neelix shit to get to this.
But she needs to be impregnated right now. She's got the sticky fingers. She needs. Come on, Neelix, be a dad.
Oh my god! But
Anyway,
getting back to the Elysian Kingdom.
From Elogium to Elysium.
We need to discuss something that me and you discussed prior to this episode recording that you had just found out today, because the book, The Elysian Kingdom, for those eagle-eyed viewers,
the fairy tale that they get transported into in this episode,
is written by none other than Benny Russell. And for those people wondering, who the hell are you on about? Go check out our Far Beyond the Stars review in our video list, because Benny Russell is the struggling writer from Far Beyond the Stars that Ben Sisko plays. This
a bizarre but pivotal character for DS9 that appears in 2 episodes of DS9 and thankfully kind of Starfleet Academy.
Yes, so this was the first episode that essentially made Benny Russell as a character canon in the Star Trek universe, because up until this point, it was speculated that Benny, was Benny Russell real? Was he just a figment of the, what was he in the realms of Star Trek? And Ira Stephen Bear was extremely adamant at the time in the 90s that he wanted to make Deep Space Nine the story that Benny Russell had fabricated, and that all the events in Star Trek came from Benny Russell. He was the creator of this universe. And Rick Berman was like, absolutely fucking not. Are you insane? Stop dyeing your beard. But Ira was like,
that hat doesn't even fit.
Yeah, but Ira was like, I mean, even to this day, Ira believes that Deep Space Nine is the conception of Benny Russell. And, but it was never truly answered. It was never truly established whether Benny Russell was a real person in the 50s or anything like that within Star Trek. But this was the first inclination that it was actually a real person. Now, we don't know if this is a pen name or anything like that, but I think it's safe to assume that they put Benny Russell on this book for a reason, and they have made him canon.
I don't like it. Like, I just found out about it today.
What?
I don't like this because I think it cheapens it a little bit. It feels like a fan reference for the sake of a fan reference, but without the realization of what it implies. Because what we see in DS9, like we say, like, we have the theory of maybe all of Star Trek is a dream that's dreamt up by Benny Russell. But then how can it be if he's inside it, Like, and it's also the idea of, if Benny Russell was real in canon, then wouldn't Sisko just search for him? Wouldn't Sisko just go into the computer and be like, who is this Benny Russell? Oh, he's a real life author. Like, we don't get anything like that in DS9, like we do with the Bell Riots, where it's the idea of going, oh, this is all in the computer. I know all these characters. And it feels like Benny Russell isn't real in Star Trek. He's not a real person inside the universe. He is a figment of Sisko's imagination. Or he is the guy behind everything. Whereas this muddies the water a bit, and it kind of spoils it for me. That's my opinion.
Okay. Hang on. I can do it now.
I don't have one.
I can do it with the new.
I don't have one. I gave you all the mugs. One for myself.
Look, everybody, look. Merch.
Oh, look, it's like there's merch.
Hang on. Let me do the TikTok thing. There we go.
Is that a TikTok thing?
I am literally obsessed with this Trekkin Up North mug. Come with me as I put liquid in it. I don't
We
have
need to do
liquid in it.
unboxings. We need, when we get all the merch, we need to do unboxing videos.
Can we do it like Rabid Beast and just tear it to shreds?
Well, no, I just think the boxes should be really weird, where they should be full of like crazy stuff, like sort of like
Could we have
like,
funny shaped
the box
boxes?
is basically all full of like fish or like meat or something like that, but then buried in the middle of it is a mug or something.
Could we have funny shaped boxes, like a guitar box, but it's actually just for like a sticker?
Yeah.
And yet, like very much like Amazon, they have like a guitar-shaped box that's full of like packing nuts and styrofoam and paper and receipts, and then at the end it's just like a sticker that's about that big in it. And then we could just have like a little note that just goes "lol," just because you had to go to the post office to collect this because it wouldn't fit through your letterbox, and it's just like a giant like annoyance for our fans because that's because we don't like money apparently. Merch coming soon anyway. But do you know what? Like, I remember seeing this.
How do you feel about it? Like with me saying
I remember seeing this in 2022, and the first thing, I mean, it was 2022, and my apathy after season 2 of Picard was palpable. Like my indifference was palpable, and I thought when I saw this, I was like, okay, they've made a quite obvious reference that that Star Trek fans will know, serious Star Trek fans will know. The casual won't know about it, but serious Star Trek fans will know, and it's an obvious nod. And then the more I thought about it, I was like, well, how, very much like you, how would that work within the Star Trek universe? Are we saying that Benny Russell was a real person? Is this a pen name of someone? Is it a coincidence? Why did he go from writing science fiction books and stuff like that to go into fairy tales? Does he have a broad set of, literature that he does? It opens up more questions in the Star Trek. And then Starfleet Academy has sort of doubled down on this, where we get Benny Russell's typewriter in the Cisco Museum. But then for that, I'm sort of going, well, have they done that because Cisco referenced in his logs about this adventure that, the prophets made him? And
like I said in that, it's like, I don't think it's actually Benny Russell's like typewriter. They've just basically made a typewriter and said, this is a visual cue for this thing that we want to talk about.
Exactly,
which is Benny Russell. Like how you go to a museum and it goes, oh, here is a stuffed tiger. It's not the actual tiger we're talking about because that's dead, but here is a tiger, so you can see what a tiger is. Like that's how I perceived it. Whereas what this does basically goes, no, Benny Russell was a real person that existed, and it's a weird one.
But
why is it changed genre?
Yeah, I genuinely think, and as much as it pains me, and as much as it's going to give me a lump in my neck, we just have to put this down to it's fan service. It's a fan service reference. However, it's a fan service reference not done well. They've just gone, oh well. His daughter's favourite book is this, so we'll just
it's a book. Who could we have as the writer?
Yeah, who is a writer in Star Trek?
Oh, should we put Jake Sisko? Oh, he's not alive yet. Let's put Benny Russell.
Yeah, and they just it's one of those things where they've just put like authors in Star Trek, or do you know what I mean? And then they've just come up with Benny Russell because it asks too many questions. Like, it doesn't give you any more answers or anything like that. So I'm a bit indifferent to it. Yeah, I'm indifferent to it. It's a nice nod to go, hey, you old bastards, you remember DS9, don't you? And it's like, okay, but this just gives me a headache when I think about it. But, it's one of those things, and it was at a time where they were just throwing any fan service reference wherever they could. And like I said, season 2 of Picard, let's just not get into that.
Luckily, season 3 of Picard gets much better with the fan service and much more
except the Borg.
Genuine with its references.
Yeah, except the Borg. But on the whole, though, what do you think to this episode? I really don't understand why I put this in the Double Wheel of
I
Shame.
see the
Maybe.
problem is the way I'm talking about it. Like I need to find our notes. They'll be written somewhere, but it's like, or at least the messages that we were having, because like maybe I did put it in. I'm confident I didn't, but then the more I talk about it, the more that I'm like, I seem to have more problem with this episode than you do. And if you can't remember why you might put it in, I'm like, I don't know, but
I'm
I'm
going to
pretty
consult
sure
my oracle. I'm pondering my orb.
I searched our WhatsApp chat and it didn't come up with anything, so it's I
Wait a
don't know.
minute. Did I apply to be on Cameo? Oh my god. I've just got an email saying your application for Cameo, and I'm like, was I in a drunk
Could
narcissistic
it be a
state?
virus or something?
No, because I've just literally found a Word document within our files about Cameo, and I'm like, I
Oh, maybe
must have
it's to
been
chat to people or something, or I don't know.
maybe, perhaps, but
Mm.
what was I doing? Yeah,
I just love that
I
you have files. I just have a document that just says Goodwill shit.
that's the name of my autobiography. How dare you? Resignation notes. Is it notes? Is it this one?
Mm.
We definitely had it on.
But yeah, we definitely had a conversation regarding it. But this episode is, I really enjoyed it. It's a very different pace. Like I say, my only criticism of it is that it should have come later in the season, like in a longer season or in later seasons. But yeah, it's really good. I love the interaction between Mbenga and his daughter. I love that everyone gets something to do in this episode, whether it's like, Pike getting to be really sort of snivelly as the cowardly Chancellor, I believe it is.
Yeah,
Ortegas gets a whole fight, and it's really badass, and I really like it. We get to see Una as like the wonderful huntress, and it's quite interesting because there's a lot of gender bending in this one because obviously Ortegas uh, the character that she gets is a male character in the book, I think. But then
yes,
basically, yeah, but then the Umbenga's daughter, like the reason why Umbenga realizes that actually it's his daughter doing this is that two of the characters have formed like a sort of romantic relationship together, which is Ortegas and Una,
yeah.
the huntress and the prince. I've forgotten what the role is, the
The
captain or something.
huntress, the
Huntress and
she
the
she's
captain,
the captain. She's
effectively.
yeah, honor
Yeah,
guard.
yeah, oh my God. And they're in a relationship together and whatnot. And Umbenga's like, that doesn't happen in the story, but my daughter always said it should. And then he realizes, oh, and then then he basically goes, well, if my, when he goes to sick bay, he checks the transport buffer and his daughter's missing from it. And he does have a
Yeah,
bit of a panic. And it's not, not maybe not as much as he should. But then he basically goes, oh, she was teleported out of the buffer somewhere on the ship. Where would she have gone? Oh, she would have gone to my quarters because that's where she said that when she's better again, that's where she'd like to see at last.
yeah.
And so there he goes to her quarters, meets up with her, and the end of the episode is that it turns out that there's some kind of entity. What is it?
So
A Boltzmann brain,
it's a
which is
it's a theory that a spontaneous a consciousness can form spontaneously out of nothing.
yeah, and that's the how gods are born or how
I
various
find
things are
that
done.
really interesting though. It is an interesting thing. I mean, you look.
Well, this is the fascinating thing with science, where it's the fact of this can happen. Like science has kind
Yeah,
of gone, yep, matter can just appear. That's a thing. It's
yeah,
it's rare, but it can just happen. And but yeah, so the idea that there is this consciousness inside the nebula that is incredibly lonely, and it sensed the loneliness of the daughter in the transport buffer. That seems a bit suspicious. That seems a bit odd that it can do that. And basically just goes, hey, actually, I'll teleport her out and then we'll play this game together and whatnot, where I'll make the world that she wants in order to have a friend. And yeah, but while this dream or this, sort of transmogrified version of the ship is happening, she is cured from her illness. But the nebula alien basically just says, "Hey, if you go away from here, out of my sort of range of influence, she'll get sick again, and then she'll die." So when Mbenga is left with the choice of does he let his daughter sort of become an entity that lives in the nebula with this other nebula creature and have a life and not die, or does he sort of take her away from it and see if he can solve it himself? And where, upon consulting her, where she just goes, I'm fine with this. I'm fine with staying here. And it's a weird one because it would have had more emotional weight if it was later on and stuff. But it does kind of get resolved because basically she does get teleported away, and then she immediately comes back, but as an older version of herself,
I
and says,
wanted to
"Hey,
talk about this.
I've lived a whole lifetime in a couple of seconds," kind of thing, and it's been wonderful. And it's a bit soppy because she basically vanishes, and then he's like going, "Oh, what have I done?" And then she immediately appears and goes,
Yeah,
"I'm gonna say everything to convince you, to basically say, oh, you made the right decision. Oh, life's been so amazing. Thank you so much." And I don't know, like if there was more to the episode, it seems a bit weird. Like that you've just come across this entity that's like caused chaos on the ship that has like otherworldly powers, and you're immediately gonna trust your daughter's life to it. It just
yeah,
seems like a very rash decision. And it's a rash decision that makes sense if we'd emphasized more how fucking close to dying she is. Like
yeah.
if we'd had more time with Mbenga to go, yeah, she literally has it could be any
Like
day now.
if she was
And it
released,
doesn't do that enough.
if she was released from the buffer, and so like say she had hours to live,
Yeah.
and the entity had released her from the buffer, and he'd been running around the ship for 5 hours. So that's
Mm.
5 hours where she degrades
Yeah.
rapidly, and it gets to a stage where it's like, I need to get you in back into the buffer now. And then it's the choice of, do we put her back in the buffer and hopefully find a cure, or do we let the entity cure her and then allow her to live this life, but she can't leave the remits of the entity? That
Mm.
would have had a little bit more emotional weight, given the fact she'd only been in for 3 episodes. I feel. I wanted to
Yeah.
discuss how you felt about her coming back as an older person as well, because it's like, oh well, time has no meaning, blah 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 blah, and I'm like, okay, but you can't leave the remit of the nebula. How can you live a life? How can you do experiences if you can't leave the remit of the nebula of the entity, and you can't travel and no one's moved or anything like that? So how do you see what I mean? Like
Well,
if
I
it was
think
like if it was an entity, if it wasn't a thing and it was an entity that was like, oh, time has no meaning. So, we've been able to do all these things and move and stuff like that. But it's like, it's literally a few seconds. Nothing has moved. How
but the
did
thing
I
is
really don't understand it?
there's no telling that in this couple of seconds she could have created whole new worlds and lived lifetimes
Yeah.
on them and done all of this, and it could have happened out of sight or in a different dimension or anything like that. Like I don't think that's the problem. I think the problem is like her aging, because it's like if she's aged to be an adult in a couple of seconds, does that not mean by the time the ship pulls away she's dead?
Yeah,
Like,
that's what I was
and
thinking.
that just it just feels a bit weird. Like I would have preferred, and I don't know if you've seen the movie What Dreams May Come, which is an incredible Robin Williams movie. Do not watch it if you are if a loved one has died recently, because it is a very hard movie about like
Yeah.
loss and grief and whatnot. But effectively, it kind of has a guy where when he goes to heaven after death, he finds his kids and he doesn't recognize them because they've all taken on the forms that they always wanted to have. Where
Yeah.
basically his daughter, it's spoilers for the movie, but his daughter has taken on the form of an Asian woman, hilariously played by Keiko O'Brien, played by the same actress, I believe.
She was
Um,
allowed in heaven.
yeah, no, she tricked her way in, don't worry. But yeah, but it's the fact that she's played by the same actress,
Yeah.
and it's because and he's like, oh, why are you grown up? And it's like, because I got to choose that I wanted to be grown up, so I decided to be, because I never got the opportunity to be. And if it was like this, where it was the idea of if we put more weight on if we put more weight on the daughter's oh, I'm not going to grow up, and it makes me really sad. And because she's realizing that she's going to die, and she is more sort of worried about it. And it was more, and it came across as more serious within the show over a longer course of time.
Yeah.
That's why she's older, because she has the ability to grow up, which she wouldn't have had if she hadn't have gone into the nebula. That would have sat better with me and been happier rather than just like she's aging really quickly. This is the end of Beetlejuice. It just feels a bit like, anyway.
Just, I have a quick confirmation.
Mm.
I have found the master list of
Oh,
episodes.
oh. Was it
It was
me?
you. It was
Ah,
you.
damn it!
Yeah.
I'm accusing you of everything, and it was me.
And
Okay, yeah,
you have Time's Arrow. I
yeah.
do declare.
Fucking hate Times Arrow.
I
We
do
have done that.
declare. And yeah, the Elysian Kingdom.
Right. I will put my hands straight up. I was wrong. This is a wonderful episode. Maybe when we decided the list, it was a bit too soon.
But isn't this
Maybe
a
I felt like I
beauty?
needed to put something in the Dabo wheel for Strange New Worlds before we got some actual terrible episodes in
But
season
here's the
three.
thing. Here's the thing. We did this before season 3. All right, and this is
Before we
this.
had actual bad
But this is
Strange
this
New
is the
Worlds.
beauty. This is the beauty of what we do and Star Trek: Strange New Worlds. Okay, we have the ability to review something and change our opinion of it.
Yeah.
That is what that is what a good critic, should we say, or just a good person. If you can change your mind based on new information
Yeah.
or re-reviewing or reanalyzing something, you can change your mind. And we have done it quite a lot on Trekkin, based on going through these episodes and going, yeah, some of them, I mean, I'm looking at you, Stardust City Rag, where it's like, no, you will
It got worse. It actually got worse.
you will forever be the stain on my toilet seat. But then you look at stuff like the Elysian Kingdom, where you go, maybe we only picked it because out of all the episodes of up until that point of Strange New Worlds, that was one of the weakest ones. And I believe, if I remember correctly, we picked 2 bad Strange New Worlds one. One of them was the one on Talos 4. Not
You
Talos
picked that
4.
one, yeah.
No, the one on Rigel. I think it was on
Yeah.
Rigel. And the Elysian Kingdom, and then we both collectively agreed, if those are the 2 weaker episodes of Strange New Worlds, then Strange New Worlds as a whole is a fantastic series. We had season 3, but it
Hey,
it
season 3 is
shows.
good. It's just it's
Yeah,
far weaker than 1 and 2.
but it should. Oh God, Turnabout Intruder. But it just shows
Oh God,
where
it's gonna
we
come
can
at some
we
point.
can watch it. We can watch an episode and we can discuss it and we can change our minds. And this is why I love doing the podcast with you, because you have a different opinion to me and vice versa. But then we can talk to each other and we can convince each other of our way of thinking. We don't necessarily have to agree with it, but we can see each other's points of view. And if only more Trekkies had that frame of mind to think rationally and change their opinions based on new information.
The amount of arguments I've had where everyone's like, "Oh, I can't believe you liked Starfleet Academy. It's utter shit." And I was just like, "Well, what did you think of episode 3 and 4?" And they were like, "Oh, I never watched that far." And I'm like, "So
Yeah.
you watched episode 1 and you made up your mind
It's
and you
like
didn't watch the
watching.
rest of it." It's like, okay, shut up.
It's like
But so many people I've talked to are like that, but like, oh, it's fucking rubbish, and it's just like, have you watched all of it? No, you haven't. Then shut up.
it's like watching the first 5 minutes of Titanic. Going, oh, what are you on about? So they sunk, and it's like, yeah, but it's how it got
I don't know
there.
what it's about. The ship hasn't even sank, and it's like, wait till the end of the film.
It's been 84 years. Oh, you've also been on British Gas whole time. Do you
that's
have
it.
any? Do you have any notes for
I?
the Elysian Kingdom?
I think. Hold on, Bubba.
Oh God, move
fact
along
that,
home.
The fact that the entity chooses the name Deborah.
You son of a bitch! You've just torpedoed my challenge for you to decide if we had a good and bad episode. Right,
Oh,
okay.
really?
You bastard. Right,
Ah, no,
continue.
no. But it's the fact that, like, well, to be fair, we still got Dark Page to watch. Should we just skip the Dabo wheel and just do Dark Page next
Do you want
week?
to do Dark Page?
I think we should. We've got
We should do Dark Page.
we did spin it on the wheel. We'll do that, and then next week we'll get a guest. And
We
we'll
should
get a proper
clear our
challenge on.
episode debt and watch
Yeah,
Dark
we
Page.
our
That's
episode
fine.
dead, and we've been far too happy at the moment. So let's have a
Oh
really,
yes.
really, really
The one thing
depressing Trek
the one
episode.
thing I really want to see at the moment is depression. Thank you, Science Officer Synoiz.
That's what we want.
Next
One
week's gonna.
of the hardest episodes of Trek, if I'm perfectly
I
honest.
might just play Resurgence for the next 3 months. I think that'll be fine.
But yeah, but the fact that the entity, when the daughter, when Rakia's comes back as an adult, she's like, "Oh, me and Deborah have been doing all this stuff," and he's like, "Why? Who's Deborah? Oh, that's what the entity calls itself now." I kind of like that. That's like
No, she named
and
her.
then-
She named her
she
after her
named
mother.
Oh, right, okay. I just like the idea that the entity went, "I'd like to be Deborah.
I love that. I do love
I
the
feel like
idea.
a Stephen."
I do love the idea of a consciousness just spontaneously forming out of nowhere, just going, "I'm a Deborah." Just like it's somewhere in the galaxy. There's a Karen floating in
I
space.
don't know if you had it, but it was the brilliant thing when I was at university that all of the Chinese students, and it was always the Chinese students, it wasn't the Japanese or the Korean ones, it was the Chinese students when they adopted English names because their Chinese names were like too difficult for people to pronounce. They always picked English names, but it was always old women names, and it was always hilarious. Whereas like Betty,
Ellen.
yeah, like Betty, Ellen, Peggy. There was a Peggy in our class. And what is it like? I think there was a Bertha, and you just like, I just love the idea that they just come to another country and they just go, "I'm gonna be a Bertha," you know, like it's just.
That reminds me. I mean, that reminds me when people emigrated to America in the 18th and the 1900s, and they were just like, "Yeah, your surname's too foreign. You're a Smith." And it's like, okay, and now America has got 17 billion Smiths. And it's like, you have a problem. The S in your phone book is too large.
Well, the hilarious thing though is I was like, oh, it seems so unfair that they're having to change their name because it's too complicated for people to pronounce. We should just get better at pronouncing sort of foreign names, and then promptly finding it impossible to pronounce Chi Chi. You know, it's like where it's like that was the name, and I was just like, no, it's not Chi Chi, it's not Kiki, it's this sound in the middle that we don't have over here. And I'm like, okay, yeah, you be Bertha, you know. Like,
It's really interesting because the one thing that I take away from language like that is the bathroom cleaner. What was it?
Sif.
Sif.
No,
where they
not
had to,
Sif, not
they had to change it from GIF. They had to change it from GIF to SIF when they went international because
Spanish.
Germans. No, it was the Germans.
What? I thought it was Spanish people because they've got their whole.
No, they can't pronounce J. Apparently,
Ah.
I think it was the Germans or
I
something.
thought
So
it was Spanish because
it
J,
Spanish?
J becomes F, doesn't it?
oh yeah, do you know what I think you're right? Yeah, so they changed it from GIF to SIF because they couldn't pronounce J, so it would have just been HIF.
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah, so they changed it to SIF. And I remember people outside of the UK going,
Drink
"What?"
for HIF.
People outside of the UK going, "What the hell are these two going on about?" We're on about bathroom cleaner from the 90s, okay? We have sheltered
You know
lives.
when we were like, we're going to do everything we can to make sure this is a short episode. And we're like, anyway, bathroom cleaner from the 90s.
Any notes for the Elysian Kingdom?
Yeah, basically. No, beautiful scene with Deborah and Rakia. The one thing I wanted to mention is at the final bit, Una basically comes into sick bay and talks to Umbenga, and every one of the crew has forgotten the whole incident. They don't know what the hell happened. All they know is that they lost 5 hours, and it's only Umbenga that knows what's going on. And so the episode ends with him telling her what happened, but doing it like he's reading a storybook, like he starts the episode doing. And it's a really good little thing. But in this situation, you could make up whatever crazy shit you wanted. If
Oh yeah.
literally you were the only member of the crew that remembered what happened, and people came to you and said, "What happened in the last day?" You'd just be like, "Well," it's
Someone
just
took a
"Oh
shit on
yeah,
the
you
saddle.
made me your new god." You know?
Yeah.
I got promoted to admiral.
Yeah, you authorized my pay rise.
Yeah,
What?
yeah. But
I like
just the
that though,
crazy
yeah.
shit that he could sort of just spew
I
out and just be like,
I
yeah,
like
and
that
everyone's
though,
like, that goes in the records. That
but it
goes in
also
there.
but don't you think it also shows how good of an officer he would be if like they just take what he says and go, "Yep, that happened. That's the story."
But this is the thing though, and we've said it a lot, and it's the fact of the joy of Trek and why we find it so comforting is that there is trust. Like
Yeah.
in the real world now, we don't have that. Like we have it where like you work at a company and they're constantly thinking the worst of you. Like all the time, like your computers need to be monitored, your emails need to be monitored, you need to check in, you need to have timesheets, you need to do this, that, and the other. It's like, oh, we can't trust you with this, and oh, like, and it's that crazy thing where and maybe it is because we have dishonest people in the world or whatnot, but it does feel very much like companies are and organizations are far more concerned with covering their backs than actually trusting in their employees and giving their employees like freedom to do things, Like,
Yeah.
and I love that about Trek, where it just has people going, yeah, we're not gonna, it's like, oh, we trust your opinion, or oh, what do you think we should do? Oh, yeah, we'll go with that because you're the head of engineering and whatnot. Like, whereas, yeah, in real life, you rarely get that. You kind of go, hey, I have this great idea. Oh, but because it's coming from me, that's not going to be regarded as well as if it was from like a stakeholder or something.
There was
It's
a
difficult.
there was an early scene in this episode that you know represents that wonderfully, where they can't go to warp, so they get Hemmer on the view screen, and then Spock comes up with a suggestion. Maybe it's something in the nebula is interfering with us generating a warp field. Maybe use impulse and move over there. And then it's just the fact that Hemmer just doesn't go to go, well, hang on, I'm the engineer. I should know more than you. He's like, do you know? Yeah, I concur with Mr. Spock. I think that's a good idea. Let's
Yeah.
do that. And like, it's that sort of teamwork that I really envy.
Rather than what we get in real life, which is basically the idea of going, oh well, no, I'm the engineer, so I should be coming up with the
Yeah,
solutions here. So I'm going to rephrase that and put it out as my idea or something, or I'll
yeah,
tweak it so that it's actually my thing that we go with. Like in that, but that's always from a lack of confidence. That's when you
yeah,
get people like that, it's because they feel like they need to make themselves useful. Whereas in Trek, we kind of go, you're here because you are useful. Like,
yeah.
like we see it all the time in like Barclay. Barclay's a wonderful example of going, he has so many troubles, so many problems. He's a fucking nightmare employee, but everyone gives him the benefit of the doubt as much as they possibly can. And they trust him and they sort of do this and we see it stretched to its limits with Barclay in Next Generation and especially in bloody Voyager. But it's like this idea of like, I don't know, there's just something I always find that lovely in Trek that they
Yeah.
do just go, hey, we're just gonna trust your opinion because you're here, you know.
I wholeheartedly agree. Any final notes before we wrap up?
I don't think so. We've already talked about how amazing the costumes and stuff are.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a wonderful episode. I can't believe I put this in the Dabble Wheel of Shame, but it obviously says a lot about where we were when we created the list.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Treks and Trekkers worldwide, that has been our review of the Elysian Kingdom from Season 1 of Star Trek Strange New Worlds. We do have a little thing to mention before we do depart, though, because this Saturday...
Oh, it's this bloody...
You forgot about the sponsorship screen, didn't you?
What's that Egypt doing on the TV?
Which one? Shit, that's Jessica Fletcher. What do you mean?
Oh, Jessica Fletcher.
Can I
Yes,
just
she
point
killed
out?
them.
Can I just point out that is
What?
the greatest nerdy quiz logo yet? I want that on a t-shirt because the level of sass that Angela Lansbury is giving me in that, it's just like, as soon as you, so for those that don't know, he sent me the image
These
there.
images, since we rebranded to be the nerdy quiz, we were like, okay, well, how are we going to change it up? So what we've got is got my wonderful friend Ian Lawler. Go to Ian Lawler Art on Instagram to follow him. Wonderful, wonderful artist, and one of my best friends in the world. We've got him drawing like pictures to do with every quiz. So every month we've got a different theme. He draws the picture of it. And I went and I basically said like, oh, because it's crime and thrillers, we should have Hannibal Lecter. And Jess was like, no, Jessica Fletcher. So I went to him and was like, can you draw Jessica Fletcher? And he was like, I'll try, And then he sent me that. And I was like, I don't think it's right. There's something about it that maybe you should try again. But then he was like, nope, he tweaked it. And I was like, actually, the more I look at it, the more she's sick of our shit. Like Jessica Fletcher is she's got the tea. She's about to break your legs, And we were like, no, actually, it's perfect. Let's keep with this one.
So Synoiz sent me this via WhatsApp, and within, I would say, 30 hot seconds, I went back with a meme.
Oh, no, yeah.
Where it was just Angela Lansbury's face, and underneath, just went, oh, mate. And it's just like, she's got that look where you've done something stupid for the 7th time today, and she's looking at you going, I really regret being near you today because
She's
you have
had
caused me
enough.
nothing. Yeah, she's had enough. This is the point where she was the one doing the murders that she wrote about. That's what it is. But this Saturday at AFK Bar in the beautiful city of Sunderland, it's the Nerdy
Yeah.
Quiz.
It is crime and thrillers. And the place is now, it says AFK, but that's because the poster was done a couple of weeks ago. They have just rebranded, they have just reopened Saturday Gone as D20. They are now called D20 Bar in Sunderland, which is
Oh,
wonderful.
it's
I
D
helped
bar
out
to
with
be.
yeah, I helped out with the redecorating a little bit and stuff. So
Oh.
we're very excited about that. So upstairs at D20 Bar slash AFK Bar in Sunderland. And come along, and we are raising for the Charlie and Carter Foundation, which is a wonderful local charity that basically provides to parents where they've got newborns, they've got kids with severe or terminal illnesses. They basically provide for those charities because the last thing that you want to be worrying about when you have an incredibly sick kid, like Dr. Mbenga in this episode, is money and bills. Luckily, in Star Trek, they don't have money. They just have everything for free, so he doesn't need to stress about that and he can deal with helping his child. Whereas in the real world, yeah, you don't want to have to worry about going to work or being able to afford this, that, and the other, or meals or care or whatnot. So Charlie and Carter Foundation have packages that they give to the families that basically go, hey, you don't need to worry about your mortgage for a month or two. Just, be there for your kid, which I think is an
It's
incredible
wonderful.
thing to do. Yeah.
It's an absolutely wonderful charity. Absolutely wonderful. We will be there this Saturday at the AFK slash D20 bar for some more debauchery. And I am bringing
Oh, God. Are we doing this again?
something very special. Something I have. It has been a dual effort between myself and my partner Charlotte to get this constructed. We are bringing something special to the quiz.
Okay.
If you are unable to make it, please check our Discord in the link below. I will post an image after it's been revealed at the quiz. I'm proud this month. I am very proud of this month. I'm happy about this. So come along down on Saturday to the D20 bar. Tickets are there £2.
Yeah, it's £2, £2, and if you want a strip of raffle tickets to win a selection of nerdy prizes, it is £10. So think about it, £12 in, and you get a wonderful time with friends. You get a wonderful silly quiz. You might even win the special custom Jessica Fletcher mug that the winning team will get, and you also get 2-for-1 cocktails and everything, and raffle prizes and
Oh,
stuff.
and pizza.
All very fun. And pizza, yeah. Mm.
Ladies and
There we go.
gentlemen,
We did the thing. There we go.
ladies and gentlemen, this has been our review of Elysian Kingdom. I would like to thank my beautiful co-host, Science Officer Synoiz, for joining me for this episode. You can find every single possible way to contact Trekkin Up North in the links in the description below. All of our friends are down there as well. I highly suggest, after you subscribe to us, if you've not already, and click the like button, that you find all those links and follow our friends as well. We will be back next time to review Star Trek The Next Generation Season 7, Episode 7, Dark Page, because evidently I'm not allowed to feel happiness anymore. I must suffer for my art. Thank you so much, Science Officer. To be fair, it is a brilliant episode. This is a brilliant episode.
It's such a good episode because what it does is it takes a comedy character and turns them on their head. Where this is Luxana Troy is the quintessential, oh God, it's her again. It's like if Neelix had an episode that made you go, oh shit, he's really, really deep. And he doesn't. Like Neelix never gets that in Voyager. But this basically goes, hey, look at this comedy character. Oh, God. Oh, and she becomes incredibly serious very quickly. It's wonderful.
Yeah. It's going to be well worth you tuning in for that. So, until next time, our lovelies, I want you to live long and prosper, take care of yourselves, and as ever, on Trekking Up North. Miles?
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 Your sorbet sucks. Now get out!